Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and it's your favorite time of the week, and mine too, because we've got the coolest new knives that have just hit our shelves right in front of me, and we've got a lot of fixed blades to talk about today, which makes me very happy. Let's get into it.
So happy he's slurring.
Well, I mean, I am. Normally fixed blades tend to wind up towards the back half of the video, but I'm here to take a stand. Tomorrow's Fixed Blade Friday. We need to be ready for that, so we're looking at fixed blades first today.
Fixed Blade Thursday?
So there. Through Tang Thursday? I don't know. We'll come up with something for that. And I'm just looking real quick. There's no reverse Tontos on the table today. Ha! Let's start with this new Benchmade. Actually, two new Benchmades that launched today. It is the reintroduction of the Shane Siebert designed Bushcrafter series. This is the 163, roughly the same size as the 162, which preceded it, and the 165, which is a smaller variation. So I actually had a 162 for quite a while. It was a first production run. I actually bought it from KnifeCenter back before I used to work here, which is a fun story. It's got a bit of a soft spot in my heart because I used and abused the heck out of that thing. And it did great. And so I'm glad to see it back in the lineup in a new format for sure, but glad to see it nonetheless. 4.38 inch S30V blade, classic kind of spear point, or drop point shape, saber height flat grind going on. Very similar to the original, maybe it's not quite as slicey, a little bit more stout and fairly thick. Let's see, this is, let me just check the measurements, 0.164 thick. If I'm remembering correctly, the original was a full 3/16 of an inch, so slightly thicker. So maybe take my comment about sliciness with a grain of salt. If it's the same angle as the original and the blade is thinner, it would indeed look shorter. I don't know. I wish I still had mine to compare it to now. Anyway, main thing you're gonna see that's different is obviously the handle has been revamped. Minimizing the finger guard without getting rid of it completely. That allows you to get closer up to the edge of the blade itself for fine carving tasks. And likewise, the beak at the back is less pronounced as well, so it's not gonna get in the way as much. It'll be a little bit less restrictive than that original and make it a little more, bushcrafty. I always considered the original 162 more of a survival knife, quite honestly. So this is cool to see its personality coming more in line with its name, perhaps. The handles are G10. You've got the flared tubes there, which will allow you to do lashing type of stuff. In a survival scenario, don't make a spear with your knife and throw it, but if you do need it to reach higher into the branches or something to cut something down, there are reasons you'd want to do that. And you got some nice thumb scallops there for a pinch grip. And despite the blocky look, they're not that bad. They don't feel nearly as blocky in the hand as they look like they would from the outside. I actually found the original fairly comfortable, and this reminds me a lot of that particular handle configuration. No sharpened spine on this. That's a common thing you will see on a bushcraft knife is the ability for that spine to be crisp enough so that it can spark a fire steel or scrape bark or that sort of thing. They do give you an option for fire steel striking, however. The sharpening choil here right at the back, the edges of that are crisp enough you could drag your ferro rod through there and throw some sparks pretty nicely. The sheath is brown leather with a rather nice shape to the side. Comes with a retention strap right here. I appreciate that the flap is facing backwards if you're carrying this on your right hip, so that as you're going through brush and the woods and all that, less likely to snag and pop open when you don't want it to. And it comes with a fire steel loop on the side as well. Price on this knife is $360. The smaller version, not that much less expensive, coming in at $342 right now. And for that, you're getting a 3.38 inch blade there. A little bit more stout handle, same type of shape, but a little bit more compact, a little shorter anyway. And fits my hand pretty nicely. I do have slightly larger than average hands, take that for what it's worth. And I have just enough space there personally. Doesn't even feel cramped either. That's gonna be a really great little smaller whittling knife, carving around the campfire, doing smaller tasks. Maybe you've got a larger knife in your arsenal that's gonna be doing big knife duty and you want something more compact as a better companion. This is gonna make an even better option for that. And sheath, Same type of deal as we just saw. There you go. I think despite them like being more bushcrafty, at least in its presentation than the original, still a great just all-around outdoor knife. Whatever you're doing, it should do pretty well. They're not inexpensive though. Let's take a look at some less expensive fixed blades here. Bunch of work Tuffs dropping today. And these are a far simpler steel than the Benchmade. You're not going to get particle metallurgy. We've got, let me just make sure they're all this steel. Yeah, everything today is SK85. So a simpler carbon steel, maybe not quite as much edge retention as a 1095, but maybe a little bit tougher. Similar ballpark in any case. As such, you're going to be able to get a knife like this, the UniHart, for like 135 bucks. Not too bad. And with that, you're getting all of the work Tuff fit and finish we know and love. You're getting their insanely nicely convexed and almost mirror polished edges going on. Very sharp, very cool. And it's just another great versatile all around outdoor shape here as well. 4.5-inch blade, SK85 as mentioned, almost a full flat grind, about 5/32 of an inch thick. Going to be pretty tough and pretty slicey at the same time, and you got a swedge there at the tip, which is quite nice. Great versatile shape, do just about anything outdoors, especially this is going to make a nice hunter. You got a lot of belly on the front section of this knife. It's a very pronounced amount of belly. It's going to work quite nicely, but then your tip is center line. You can do drilling stuff with that very easily. And I love these handles. These handles are super comfy. This is black and orange Gator Grip G10. I believe that's referring to the texture here, but you can see that shape of the handle that I love, that inverted egg shape, and it just melts right into the hand so nicely. Pinch grips for usage there. More of a finger guard at the front for some protection if you're doing some piercing tasks or you're wet or slippery. Hidden lanyard point at the back as well. Just a masterful handle. And you can get it on another knife this week too. Same handle, different blade. This is the TimberWolf. About 10 bucks less, 125 right now, and 3.5-inch SK85 blade. More acute tip, higher tip, good smaller skinner here as well, and thinner blade stock with a high flat grind, even slicier to boot. Feels just as good in the hand too. The sheaths on both of these knives are Kydex, nice and thick. This is the UniHarts right here. And they each come in the package with a bracket and a nylon loop for typical belt carry. It's just not attached. You'll have to do that yourself. Very cool. I should mention also that both of those knives do have crisp spines if you want to do those fire steel and scraping things. But if you crave something a bit bigger, we've got a new, smaller version of the Wolverine. I know how that sounds. This is a 6.5-inch blade, 6.4 according to our site, designed by Aurora Borealis Knives. There we go. Price on this one is coming in about $165. A little bit thicker. It looks about 3/16 of an inch thick to me. Nicely done handle as well. A little bit blockier than the previous two knives, but still quite comfortable. Not quite as blocky as the Benchmade, which is still a comfortable knife. And thumb scalps as well. Crisp spine as well, and look how nicely that is done too. Despite only being about 6.5 inches, there's a little bit of moderate chopping this is going to be able to do. Choke back on it especially, and you'll get a little bit more leverage, and the way that's shaped actually feels pretty secure in the hand in between the last two fingers. Get a little bit of a hit when you need it. That nicely convex edge should stand up to those types of hacking tasks pretty nicely. But then it balances real well, actually, for the smaller stuff. So you're not fighting the weight of the blade at all. Nicely done. High flat grind, it's gonna slice pretty well. It's thick enough to abuse, thick enough to baton with, split through wood in an emergency. Good stuff. These next two are a bit more, well, essentially, you kind of think of the Kitsune line along two different facets. Could make a pretty decent hunter. We'll make it 3 facets. Pretty decent small hunting knife, I think. Good EDC, good self-defense knife as well. We've got 2 new versions. 2 colors of 2 new versions. This is the Kitsune T with a clip point blade with a bit of straight spine there at the back, or parallel spine, I should say, and then the Kitsune S with maybe a hint more recurve, although that could be just variance from one to the next. But on this, you've got a longer kind of, not harpoon style clip point, but something with a long straight clip going on. Each one of these is about $135. I'm really liking the one with a little bit of flat spine there and a shorter clipped length there. I think it has some really nice visual lines going on. 4¼ inch long, SK85 as mentioned. The recurve is going to add a little bit of extra cutting power into that length itself. And let's actually measure the cutting edge, because I think 4¼ is, 4¼ is tip to scale right there. Your actual cutting edge is measuring more like 3½, just under that amount. So that's what I mean by good agile EDC. That's a great shape for most daily utility, and nice little pokey thing if you need a self-defense knife. The spine is crisp. You could bushcraft with it if you needed to. Not that I necessarily would choose this first, but hey, you could do it. G10 handles, protruding tang there at the back. You could do some striking with it if should the need arise. And just the same in the sheath department. All these knives, Kydex with the nylon belt loop that you can attach yourself included. Very, very cool little knife. I like this even better than the Kitsune L we had before. That's a larger knife, I want to say. Let me check. Yeah, the Kitsune L was about a 5-inch blade and a bit bulkier. This one, I like it. I like the compact nature of that. Fits nicely. All right, next up, it's folder time, I guess.
It's bound to happen.
At least it's a cool folder. We've got the Malibu. This has been an insanely popular knife for a number of years now, and I guess things are finally catching up, because this is one of the first times, maybe the first time, I've been able to show a standard production Malibu on these new knives of the week, something that didn't come from a show that we were launching on the day the video dropped. I finally get to show an in-stock Malibu, standard Malibu. $240 for this. You got a 3.3-inch Wharncliffe blade on these versions, all blacked out handle. This is not an operator version because you do have the ProTech logo and the MagnaCut designation on the spine of the blade right there. First MagnaCut blade today, of course, probably the most well-rounded stainless steel knife blade option out there these days because of its high marks in edge retention and high toughness as well. And you don't have to worry about it rusting either. The handles, standard black aluminum, inset deep carry pocket clip, and their famous button lock action. I say famous because even though ProTech did not invent the plunge lock, the button lock, whatever you want to call it, the way they implemented it here and the action they achieved on this manual knife set the industry on fire, and you've had every other manufacturer under the sun chasing this feeling ever since. But still, nothing feels quite like a Malibu. It just feels so good. There you go. Check them out while they are in stock.
And gone.
We might have a few left. We'll see how it goes. Anyway, awesome knife. Great EDC. I've always been partial to the Wharncliffe blade myself here over the reverse tanto. Sorry, Thomas.
You'll just go for any blade shape other than reverse tanto.
It's funny because I own a Malibu and it is not a Wharncliffe. It is the reverse tanto. It's what I could get at the time.
You can't get away from it. Reverse tanto comes for us all.
I shudder to think. Let's check out another one of my favorite US manufacturers, and it's not CRKT, it's Hogue Knives, who made this CRKT for CRKT. I love that partnership. I love the people at CRKT. I love what they do to the industry, and I love the people at Hogue. I love what they do for American knife manufacturing. So awesome, awesome partnership in my mind. This is the Michaca. It was like Michigan and Ithaca, right? So Michaca.
Close enough.
Something like that. Really cool knife, and it has a really, like, I don't necessarily say game-changing feature, but it certainly pushes the line forward a little bit. This is an automatic knife. They come in at about $300, 3.3-inch MagnaCut blade, and G10 handles. There's the two versions. You got the natural or jade G10 with the black G10 stripe, and the inverse of that, black G10 with the natural stripe. That one comes with a black version, or you get the blasted blade, black blade, or you get the blasted blade on the natural version. Now, I'm gonna close this up here real quick. The thing with tip up pocket clips, like you see right here, the blade is held in tip up fashion, is for tactical uses where you really need to bring your blade to bear quickly. They can actually be a little slower than a tip down, because if you have a tip down, you can pull it from your pocket, just rotate and flick the blade open. Whereas with a tip up, you're pulling it up from here, so you have to flip it around just like a tip up knife, but then you have to readjust your grip all the way up, hope it doesn't slip out of your hand, and then deploy. They've done something really cool with this to make it faster. The scale release mechanism is actuated from the backside here. So you can simply pull the knife out, and you do have to adjust your grip a little bit, but you just squeeze back here. See that bit moving? That's also the unlock, but yeah. So you can if you get a little deeper grip on it and pull it out, you're simply rotating like so. So there's a little bit less fidgeting involved than a typical tip down or tip up fashion. That is really cool. The handle feels good as well. I can choke up a little bit, get a nice gorilla grip on it. I love the blade. Nice slender drop point, almost a full flat grind with a full length swedge as well. Just a fantastic everyday blade shape in my opinion. I would not mind using this 1 iota. That'd be very cool. I like it. Check them out. In stock now. Probably. We are filming this a day ahead of time in this case. So.
They ain't gone.
No, I don't think they'll be gone. They're excellent though. Philip Booth is the designer. I should mention that. Next knife is designed either by or for Olight. This is the Oknife Rubato 4. Their rail lock mechanism is what they're calling it, which is simply a crossbar lock by any other name. $120 for this. I believe this is still being made for them by Kizer. It doesn't have the holes on the inside where you can adjust the spring tension if you like Kizer's version of the crossbar lock, which they call the clutch lock. You can see where these naming things get silly. Like Kizer makes the clutch lock and they make it for someone else. It's called something else, even though they're both crossbar locks. Anyway, I digress. I digest. It's after lunch.
It is after lunch.
I like the knife though. People don't get me wrong. Like I give a lot of like guff to like people who name their crossbar locks different things, because there's just, in my opinion, as someone who works for a retailer and as a consumer of said lock myself, there's just too many names out there. But that doesn't take anything away from what the knife actually is. And this knife is a really excellent little EDC piece. We've got, oh, this is not Ultim actually. They're calling it yellow polyatheramide, PEI handles. Huh. It's got that Ultim look. Maybe it's a touch cloudier. Interesting. I am not prepared to tell you to talk about polyatheramide, because I made an incorrect assumption when I stepped up to the table today that this was Ultim. You'll have to do your own research in this case. It sounds like I'm really dragging on this knife. I'm really not, because I really do think it's an excellent little design. Blade is just over 3 inches, full flat grind, nice on the thin side, great little slicey drop point that's going to do all your day-to-day stuff quite well. The crossbar lock works quite nicely. As you can see, that finger safe action as you close the blade is rather nice. The flick open is rather nice. Let's do the thumb studs too. Yeah, that's cool. Ball bearings in the pivot of this particular knife. So you have that kind of free-floating action going. You've got a deep carry pocket clip, and thankfully it is reversible, so this is a great left or right-handed option. Whatever your persuasions are, you can handle this knife, I guess, unless you have really big hands. Speaking of, standard grip using the guarded section here. It's kind of a 3.5 finger grip for me, but there is some space there at the front, so I can get a nice gorilla grip on that knife. So you've got something that carries nice and small, but when you need to push it through a bigger cut, you've got the confidence, I think, to do so. All right, this next one is an interesting one, with an interesting story as to why it got made right now too. This is the Spyderco Catcherman, or Catcherman, whichever you want to call it. And as you can see by the handle, it's very kind of throwback Spyderco. You've got the molded in pocket clip. You've got the ramp here on the back to make room for the pivot hardware there. You've got the old volcano style texturing on the front. What gives? One may ask. Well, allegedly, here's what I have heard is the story. The blade here is 4.64 inches long and it's LC200N, which is a great steel. It's very stainless and very tough, and I think holds an edge pretty capably as well. Certainly got overshadowed by MagnaCut these days, but I think this is still an excellent, excellent option. It's very thin, and you've got a little bit of flex to it as well. Not a huge amount, but a little bit. So you could do this, or view this as a folding fillet knife. As I've heard, getting back to the thing I started to say, the reason these got made now is because Spyderco received a batch of this steel that was too thin for the purpose they had in mind for it. So they decided to make, what's the word? I almost said mountains out of molehills. No,
grape juice out of lemons.
They decided to make lemonade with the lemons they were given. Thank you, Thomas. You got me there, even if you didn't intend to. And thought, what could we do with this this thinner steel? Bing, here it is. Check it out. The Catcherman is basically a, well, I'm assuming it's all saltified. Yes, it is. What I mean by that is everything is designed to be pretty much as corrosion proof as possible, including everything in the handle. So it's a great aquatic knife. So anything you want to handle where you might be in a corrosive environment. Ton of reach there. There's partial serrations here at the back if you need to like saw through some rope or something, maybe if you're sailing with it or fishing on the water, but still plenty of plain edge there so that the combo edge is not really taking that much away. You could still do those long filleting like slices when you need to. You got your lock back there, mid-mounted in typical Spyderco fashion with the David Boy dent, which makes it easier to find if you're not looking, as well as harder to disengage by accident if you're gripping the knife hard. This is a sprint run. They made this because they had some material on hand, so once these are gone, they will be gone. Check them out. Next up, we've got another trailing point blade. This one is, I don't know how limited this one is or isn't, but this is a new version of the Swags designed chili pepper from Kizer. 3.03 inch blade, $159, S90V blade steel with a fat carbon handle. It's tricked out to the nines, and the price is not all that unreasonable at all for what you're getting right here. The button lock has very nice action. Not quite Malibu levels of addictiveness, but pretty close. You can do the flick open and closed by holding the button down and slinging your wrist around. You got your thumb studs. Oh, you got a front flipper, my nemesis. Conquered you, my nemesis. No problems at all with that front flipper. Deep carry pocket clip. It is reversible, so lefties will be able to use that button lock and carry it on the left side. No problem. It's pretty cool. It's almost got that, like the whole banana knife thing is kind of going on right now. It's kind of got that going on.
Bananas are scaling up.
So like this is a banana in all stages of its shelf cycle, shall we say.
From green to bread.
You've got, not quite bread, but like the skin. So you got your green before it's ready, yellow's ripe, and then black, you let it go too far. You get it all in one. And if you peel that banana and the inside is black, don't eat that. But check the knife out. The knife is fine with a black blade. All right, next up. Just having fun with it now. Who cares? Who cares what I say? Let's look at a Finch. You were about to say something?
Something about a certain appeal.
This is the Hellfire from Finch, 139. You've got a 3-inch sheep's foot style blade here, 154 cm steel. You've got a two-tone finish. The whole thing is tumbled, and then they come in and sand the flats, so you get a stonewash finish on the grinds and a satin, horizontal satin, which is extra nice on the flats, and that horizontal grain goes through the stainless steel bolsters, which are integral to the liners there as well. Handles here, white jigged bone. I always love when Finch does an actual jigged bone handle on their knives, because you don't see them too much on modern knives, and I love that. You've also got a fat carbon option, or a red shredded carbon fiber. I don't think it's the actual fat carbon, and a gold glitter resin option on this model right now, all for the same price. Despite it being a sheep's foot blade, they still did maintain a bit of the tip right there. They brought the curve back just a little bit so you don't lose out on a usable tip right there. Backside here, milled pocket clip and inset bolster, or bolster style frame lock right there. Ball bearings in the pivot, and you've got what I love that they do with their flipper tab here. It's just this kind of squared off, like a square at an angle. It's not quite a 90 degree, it's a little more acute than that, but it usually follows the lines of the knife really nicely, and I dig it. And it works nicely too. Great little everyday cutter. You've got that utility shape of the sheep's foot, you've got index finger protection, you've got a classy look. You could probably take this just about anywhere and not look out of place. That's actually something I've said about versions of the Tactile Rockwall as well, which is why it's one of my more carried knives. This is a new version. This is a Tonto version, as you can see, 3-inch MagnaCut blade, $349, made in Texas. And you've got a cool topographic milled pattern front and back of the titanium scales or handles right there. Deep carry pocket clip, tail mounted, so it stays nice and out of the way. Has a little bit of, it kind of flirts with that executive styling popularized by stuff like the CRKT CEO. Not fully, but it, like I said, it's flirting with that genre just a little bit. Love the way the blade pops open nicely off of those thumb studs. Love the way the backside of the pivot here even follows or even maintains the lines of that topographic milling. It's just overall really precise and really nicely done. Oh, I actually even just noticed, or I just processed what this little shape was laser engraved around the pivot. That's like the pin you drop on the map of the topographic handles. I like that. Cool. Like it. Anyway, very cool. Next up, we have a Koenig Arius Gen 4 to talk about. This is another one I don't often get to show and may not have ever actually shown. I think we showed once on one of these episodes.
Done a lot of these. I can't keep track.
I've been doing this for years, man. It's a good stuff. It's a good job. I love it. $990 for this knife. Certainly a pricey piece, but it is unlike anything else out there that I've had the pleasure of handling. In that, it's a pretty big knife, 3.5 inch. Doesn't sound too big, but you've got a nice broad blade going on here, M390 in this case. You've got a sizable handle. I mean, longer, bigger hands than me will have no problems with this knife. And yet, despite its size, its girth, it's very lightweight for its size, especially these versions with the carbon fiber front handle here. 3.95 ounces. It doesn't even feel that as heavy as that, if I'm honest. Check that just to make sure. Like deceptively light for its size. There's a agility, a nimbleness, a thing that's just not going to weigh down when you carry it about this knife that I can't remember ever feeling in stuff like this in any other way. And they flip phenomenally well. Whether you're using the flipper tab, whether you're using the index or the finger cutout, the reverse flick is lovely. The handle is lovely to hold. It's neutral enough that again, all kinds of hand sizes, no problems. We've got a really deep hollow grind on this. Not too often you see that on super steels. There's very few companies, they're out there, but very few actually do that. Nice thin behind the edge as a result, and very sharp. Just so good. And you might be able to get one right now. More finely made pieces. This one slightly more expensive, actually. 2 from Custom Knife Factory this week. This one coming in at $1,020. You could almost buy one of Thomas's vehicles for that amount of money. Maybe now you can with the miles you put on it since you bought it.
Inflation.
Yeah, who knows. You've got the Davless, a David Lespect design. 3.15 inch S90V blade, two-tone finish, satin flats, and black stone-washed grinds. Really cool, kind of harpoon-pointed Wharncliffe. We'll go with that. And a detail I really like is it curls back here towards the hand, but instead of leaving a point where you might be able to jab yourself, they're just kind of docked that corner. And as such, it's quite comfortable, and I don't feel uncomfortable or nervous about where my finger is placed on this knife. You can actually get a decent hold on the knife as well. The handles here are 3D machined carbon fiber. You can see the cool patterning going on. And the inlays, bolster inlays, are a superconductor material that gives it a really, really nice look. Clip side, Zircutai for the clip. Very aggressive or swoopy, elegant shape. Aggressive is the wrong word. I did not intend to use it there. And cool to see such a swoopy shape on a milled clip. Very, very nice. Let's close it up, shall we? We've got a liner lock, and we've got my old enemy, my old friend, the front flipper. It gave me no problems today either. Cool, cool knife. Very, very finely made. One more custom knife factory, $690, so considerably more affordable than these last two knives. A Tashi Barucha design, the Justice Mini Flipper. 3.39 inch M398 blade. It's got 8 more M's than M390, don't you know? Nice, nice, nice horizontal grain on that blade. Just oh so sweet. Is that hollow ground? No, that's flat ground. Really cool. The titanium handles have a lot of faceting, a lot of milling, almost like a small golf ball dimpling style going on. That same texture is carried through onto the back and even on to the milled clip right there. And just like the previous knife, we've got something really cool for the inlays here. They're calling this crystal tie, bronze crystal tie. Don't know what makes it crystal. It might just be a finishing thing, but it looks really sweet. Almost like stone in a way, like you'll see some stone countertops that have a lot of like sheen and little bits of reflectivity as you move around. Get something similar to that there. Integral titanium handle. I should have mentioned that. I did not. I apologize. So single piece of titanium and the bolster inlays popped in on each side of that. Always like Tashi's kind of integration of the flipper tab here, in that the scoop of the handle follows the scoop of the flipper tab there. So it makes it very easy to get your finger where it needs to go. And then you simply pull back and launch the blade and you're ready to rock. Last but not least, some Spartan Harsey folders, SHF 3.25 inch version, the smaller, more everyday carry friendly size. $500 for these. 3¼ inch S45 VN blade steel. Nice William Harsey signature there on the back. A definite gentleman in the knife making space. And there is the closed profile. These are some of the, we have 3 different graphic versions. This is the Watchworks engraved tie. We've got Plague Doctor in the small version. I forget the other one at this point, but you can check them out at the link down below. We've got that frame lock construction, the Spartan clip here with the arrow cut out of the middle. The clip is reversible and you do have a filler plate on the front with the Spartan logo. Let's do the flick. You do have washers in the pivot instead of ball bearings, so a little more resistant to dust and grit and that sort of thing, and yet it still can be flicked quite nicely when you want it to be. High flat grind, thin enough blade, stone washed finish. It is ready, quite frankly, to be whatever you need it to be for a general purpose EDC. Unless you need a big knife, this is going to do it quite nicely indeed. Always cool to see new batches of these in stock. Check them out below while they are in stock. And that's all we have for right now. As mentioned, check out the links below if you want to go check out these knives at KnifeCenter.com.
That's where to buy knives.
That was a sentence. I think I got through it. I think we're all here. We all survived. While you're over there at the Knife Center, don't forget about our long-running Knife Rewards program, because the least we can do when you buy one of our knives today is give you some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we are signing off. See you next time.